Everyone can see my screen? All good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so I run, as I mentioned, I run a design and communications agency called Pink Roller Communications. If you want to know how that name came about, we can talk about it later. Essentially, what we do is we do traditional advertising, creative design, and also we do social listening, right? So about 3 years ago, just before COVID, we decided to do a pivot to focus more on using data through social listening to guide what we do in terms of creative and design. So there are more insights and we're doing things that provide more value for clients. So essentially what we like to think of ourselves doing is intelligence-led communications, right? Not just communications and creative work that's based on gut feeling and hunches and those kinds of things that has traditionally been. So what we try to do is essentially we try to leverage insights from data. So the things that we design or the things that we say are not subjective as such, right? So trying to gain business insights, trying to understand the market to enable our communication so we can deliver better results for clients. Okay, there are essentially three core areas that we focus on. The first is strategy. So that comes in terms of brand development strategy for a lot of new businesses. This is a starting point. For some businesses that have been running for a few years and they're ready for the next stage of growth, we could go in and go through more strategic brand development, brand design for them, communication strategy and planning, campaign development and planning. And typically with these, I think you're looking at larger organizations that run campaign level marketing and communications, right? So next area that we look at, this is where we started, which was more creative and design. So concept and ideation, creative, art direction, print, motion, and digital design. I think that's something that a lot of design agencies do now with the prevalence of digital. It's just not print stuff. There's a lot of digital stuff as well. And motion, meaning videos and so on and so forth. Of course, part of that, we do copywriting and content marketing. I myself come from a copy background, so I do a lot of copywriting myself as well. And finally, this is the new area that we pivoted into just before COVID, which is the digital space. And beyond just like social media creatives and things like that, we made a conscious effort to be more in the social media intelligence space, right? So what we do is we actually troll social media and the larger digital space to capture unstructured data and structure it in a way that we can analyze data and gain insights for clients. Okay, so imagine there are billions of conversations going on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever, and they offer a wealth of information, right? How companies traditionally would use market research, whether it's through face-to-face interviews, questionnaires, whether it's focus group settings to gain consumer insights. We now use social listening to try to gain those insights for clients. It could be market related, it could be trend related, it could be competitor intelligence, depending on what the client is looking for. Okay. So from social listening, we do some perception and brand influence. I think I was talking to Steve earlier, and I think a lot of us will be familiar with this in the political space. I think we've all heard of Cambridge Analytica. So something along those lines, but in a commercial way for companies and brands. And we also do some crisis and reputation management in the social media space, specifically when negative conversations and complaints come out for clients, we try to help manage that for them to tone down the temperature of those occurrences. Okay, so those are the three core areas that we focus on. Next, I'm going to move on and kind of share with you a bit of the work that we do. I think it's the best way to give an understanding of what we do. So in Australia specifically, we focus more on small businesses who are ready to take the next step in growth, right? And a lot of times these are people who have started up business after 2-3 years. They've grown it to a level where they're ready to go bigger, right? And the initial communications, the initial brand has grown to a point that it needs to grow up to become an adult to compete with bigger brands on the market on the larger space. So the brand itself and the company itself needs to grow itself. So we work with businesses like this to help rebrand, redesign their communications, packaging, what have you. So the first one that I wanted to share with you is a Melbourne brand called Bugsy. So they actually are a pet food brand. They started off in Camberwell Market, so a market stall selling natural pet food, predominantly to dogs. So last year, they wanted to go on expansion. They wanted to go into national retail chains, so like your Pet Barns and shops like that, Habitat. And they also invested in a new manufacturing facility to produce their pet food locally instead of just outsourcing it to a producer, right? So this was the packaging that they were using then as a market stock. So to go into national chains, and to go up against Science Diet and Hills, and all the established brands, it is difficult when you look this way. Okay, so the goal was to grow up their packaging, look at the brand and create more consistency for them, right? So, and also take into consideration that they're trying to go through a product expansion and go into frozen and even cat food and things like that, to kind of create a hierarchy for their brand. So one of the first things that we did was redesign their air dried food range. So we went through clean up the packaging. This was supposed to start as a brand redevelopment, but because of certain reasons, we had to do it kind of piecemeal because we couldn't change the original logo. They weren't ready for that. But we had to still bring the packaging in line with what they're trying to do in terms of the brand, right? So a lot cleaner. They wanted it to still have that organic feel because of their origin. So this was what we developed for them, the first air dried range, right? So color themes to show the different proteins that it had and just much cleaner communication, so it stand out on the shelves against other brands. Okay, and then and also about consistency, we carried through into brochure design, the themes and copy, and elements of the design that we carried through all the way. Okay, so for this we did the ideation, the strategy, the content, design, everything. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one I'd like to share with you in terms of small businesses is a business called Saucy Wench. So like a lot of small businesses that are food related, this was started during the COVID period. So the owner, during COVID, she started making chili oils and started selling it online from home. And over the past 3 years, she has grown to a level where she's expanded her range to include not just other types of sauces and chili oils, but also to include frozen dim sums and dumplings, right? And she's going into chain stores like Essential Ingredients, and she's trying to go into Woolies and Coles and those types of stores as well. So same thing with Bugsy, because she's wanting to take the next step of growth. She wanted to relook at packaging design and the brand. So this is her current packaging and bottling, right? So if you look at it at a glance, it looks like packaging that you'd find from an imported product from Asia. Nothing wrong with it, but typically I think with imported products from Asia, pricing levels are lower, probably half of what she's selling it. And in terms of positioning, not as premium. Being a locally made artisan product, her product positioning was more premium. Pricing was also much higher than imported products. So we wanted to move the brand in a direction that more reflected her positioning and pricing level. But at the same time, she wanted to keep the quirkiness of the brand and the quirkiness of herself as a person and her personality, because that's what comes through, particularly on her social media, right? So what we did is we really took it all the way and came out with a really fun packaging labeling. We still had to keep her photo, but we treated it a bit more rather than just a black and white photo. We illustrated it a bit more and wanted to have make the packaging pop, right? And also make it a bit more contemporary in terms of how it looked on the shelves, that would feel like it's more of a locally produced artisanal product. So if you put it side by side, you can see the current on the left versus the new on the right. Okay, obviously with this, with the design, we did some of the copywriting as well, in terms of just cleaning up copy, making it a bit more punchy, and so on and so forth, right? So original label copy on the left and the revised one on the right. I can send this over to you guys for you guys to read. So those are a couple of small clients that we work with and currently working with in Australia. Next, I'll move on to the large corporates that we work with. The company started in Malaysia, so a lot of our clients are still based out of Southeast Asia, and in that region, most of our clients are large corporates. The first one that I just wanted to share with you guys is for HSBC Premier. So it's the affluent level credit card for HSBC customers in Malaysia. So essentially what they wanted to do was they wanted to own the fine dining segment and use it as a proposition to market their Premier credit card. So this included an entire communication strategy, campaign development, and creative execution. So what we did was, first of all, we came up with a key visual for the campaign. So with large corporates, a lot of times we have less flexibility in terms of design and creativity, because it's all within a certain brand or corporate identity. So we work within that. So essentially, this campaign ran through 6 months across different periods into Christmas, Chinese New Year, and things like that. So we needed to create visuals that could carry through different periods for promotional reasons, right? So from the original creative, then we created on the right-hand side. If you look at the top, you know, it's more the sleeve with the Santa, what Santa will wear, and the bottom, something a bit more Chinese for Chinese New Year. So we would carry the creatives through different celebratory periods. Okay, so, and then from there, obviously, with a lot of clients using digital now and social media, then you extend it into Facebook ads, Instagram ads, digital ads, and so on and so forth. So this is what is called a carousel ad in Facebook. So instead of just a single image, it's a series of images that you can scroll through on Facebook and Instagram. Static posts. And the next one I'm going to show you is something called instant experience, right? It's actually a Facebook format where it provides immersive ad experience within the Facebook interface itself, where it goes into full screen. It's a video, so I'll just play it so you can see. So essentially, with instant experience, within the ad itself, once you go to full screen, you can have videos, you can do 360 viewing, you can scroll left, scroll right. So it allows the user a more immersive experience in terms of engaging with the ad. And what we find with this is with very visual ads, right, particularly with food, it works very well as well for fashion, for cars, for things that are visually appealing. This type of format actually works quite well. I think we track ad performance, and with instant experience ads, I think it jumped almost double in terms of click-through rates for the client. Okay. The next client I'd share with you is an insurance company, FWD. So it's a regional insurance company in Asia. This specifically is their Sharia or Islamic brand, FWD Takaful. And this was a social media campaign development for a campaign called Mind Strength, which is about getting people to be mindful of their mental health. And they're offering an app where you can answer questions to find out about your mental health, and you could engage with health professionals to kind of help you through mental health issues and so on and so forth. So this is a fully social media campaign. So from designing campaign visuals to all the collateral for the campaign. So including motion as well. So we've got two producers that are part of our team. So we do all the video executions internally as well. And just taking it across different formats on social media. Okay. The final project I want to share with you was one for HSBC Fusion. Fusion is actually a sub-brand of HSBC specifically for SME businesses. So it's SME banking targeting small businesses up in Malaysia up to 12 million ringgit turnover. So this was done in 2021, right? When we were still more or less in the midst of COVID. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to relaunch HSBC Fusion, right? And we told them, wait, before you relaunch it, maybe you want to relook into what is important to small business owners currently, because as we all know, during COVID, a lot of small businesses were suffering. There are a lot of challenges, and if you're going to sell them the same propositions you were selling them 5-6 years ago when you launched, when times were good and everyone was talking about growth and going international and so on and so forth, that line of communications may not resonate with the small business owners. So what we did was we actually conducted a social listening research first before we went into campaign development. So over a 2-month period, we're listening on conversations related to small businesses, right? What people were talking about, a lot of small business owners were talking about. So essentially what happened in Malaysia was SME related business conversations spiked when Malaysia announced its lockdown, and then conversations spiked again, although not as much, when lockdowns were extended. Okay, so obviously lockdowns had an impact on people. We all know that now. So what are they saying when these things happen, right? So so what we do is we listen to it, and then using the platform, we actually put together and group together different conversations, and this done using AI in terms of what the key conversation is. So some of the top conversation topics that came about was a lot of conversations were about support for small businesses, like whether this was small business owners saying, please support my business, please buy from me, so on and so forth, or people posting up things on social media asking public to help support certain businesses and so on and so forth. There's a lot of conversations about loan moratoriums and financial relief that we all know now. So a lot of small businesses were struggling, and there's a lot of conversations related to that. And there's a lot of conversations related to bank relief efforts, right? What banks were doing to help businesses, or in a lot of cases, what banks were not doing to help small businesses. Okay, in terms of emotions or sentiments, what we can see here is there's a lot of anger in conversations related to SME businesses back then, and there was very little positivity. And emotions of anger also spiked when lockdown extensions were announced, because businesses were expecting that they could come out of it and start doing business again, right? So the few things we learned from social listening was, number one, using growth and international connection wouldn't resonate with the audience, because that's what HSBC had been using. Yeah, it's about, bank with us to help you grow your small business. Bank with us because we're an international bank that can help you connect your business internationally. So things like that wouldn't really resonate with businesses at that point in time, because realistically, SMEs, the main concern was about survival and financial relief, right? That's all we want to do, survive. We're not even thinking about growth. They were also angry at banks, right? In their mind, banks were not doing enough to help them. So essentially what we told the client was, let's not do the rah-rah positive growth message, because that's not going to resonate with the SME audience right now. Let's tone it down. Let's be more realistic with them, right? Let's acknowledge that times are tough. They're facing difficult challenges, but we're here to help. So based on that, we developed the communication strategy and then the campaign itself. So if you look at the copy here, this is a Facebook ad. Essentially, what the copy does is we acknowledge that times are tough, right? But the bank is here to help. We're not trying to kind of cover up the fact that people are facing challenges. We acknowledge that. And I think the language that we used for this particular campaign was very different from the language that the bank had used previously. Okay, so about being a tough gig, like, we know it's tough for you, we know you're feeling lost, but we're here to help. That was the message that we're trying to put through, right? That we see where you are, but we are here to help. We didn't really use a lot of the growth and all those kinds of languages, because we thought it wasn't the time to do this, but it was more about helping you and being there for you. That was more the conversations we're trying to have with small businesses at that point in time. Okay, and just going through and at that point in time, everything was digital. No print ads, no on-ground stuff. So it was fully social media, direct marketing, digital marketing, Google, and so on and so forth. So, and then finally, I just want to show you some more of the motion ads that we did for HSBC for that particular campaign. Okay, and that's it. Thank you, everyone. That's my presentation for today. I will stop sharing slides.
That's really good. Miin, thanks for sharing your presentation.
You're welcome.
In terms of what you just presented, how do you think this group can help you and the sort of client you'll be looking at?
Well, I think specifically for Melbourne, Australia, at least, if you know any small businesses similar to the Bugsies and the Saucy Ventures who are ready to take the next step in growth and are looking at brand redevelopment or repositioning, would love to work with them. I think in Australia, I prefer to work with small brands because I find it a lot more interesting. There's more of a creative outlet for me and allows
Yeah.
me a lot more space to do fun things with the brands. So obviously, if they're large corporates that are looking for an agency potentially that can help them
Mm.
grow into Southeast Asia because of our presence there and our experience and our understanding of the markets, we would be able to help them as well.
Okay. So your kind of field of work is not just about the digital marketing side.
No, not
Does it also include the like the customer value journey, how to sort of map out, you know, the engagement process and so on? Is that
yeah
part of
we do. I think nowadays with us at least a lot of what a lot of customers want are end-to-end solutions. So
Mm.
we can do that. We may not necessarily do all of it internally. I work with partners in certain areas. So I've got a partner that has got offices in Malaysia and Singapore
Yeah.
that does brand development and also UI UX stuff as well. So
Yeah.
developing apps for clients and so on and so forth. So
Mm.
as and when is needed, we'll pull in partners to help in certain areas that we may not be the experts in, and in the same way, if they need what our expertise is in terms of social listening, then we'll plug in and help them with those areas of it.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah.